Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Bobay. I am the precinct chair for Precinct 16 in Hopkins County. This video is primarily for Hopkins County residents. We we have been inundated by cold weather here in Hopkins County while California burns. And as many of you probably know, I'm from California. We moved here about 6 years ago, escaping California for a number of reasons. My history includes 10 years on school board in the Bay Area of California, as well as serving 8 of those years as a board member for Silicon Valley Career Technical Education Center in San Jose. So and that exposed me to 5 other school districts. We were 6 districts that had a joint power agreement, which fed students into career technical education, and probably one of the premier sites in the nation. We have a lot of programs still going on in San Jose. You can look them up, Silicon Valley Career Tech, and see what their programs are all about. There's videos and all kinds of stuff there. We had to fight for that. At one point, we went to local control funding in California, and that cut direct funding to career tech centers across California out of the picture. So it became the responsibility of the school districts to pay for that. Well, they're reluctant to do that, obviously. They want the money. The superintendents and the boards want the money in their district to support their students. Well, it does support their students because we all fed into the joint power group. And this school was around for 100 years. So I was active in Sacramento in fighting for career technical education. Governor Gavin Newsom, who we see in the news a lot these days, he wanted to see most career tech go to the junior colleges. He had an advisor, a friend of his, that was high up in the community college industry, and so he wanted to see all those centers closed and all those students go to junior college. However, juniors and seniors in high schools typically don't go to junior college. Yeah, so this was a way for students, let's say in East Side San Jose, and in our own community, to get career technical education. And after high school, they could get pretty much high-paying jobs in industry, and get certification in their particular skill for a variety of things, from dental to auto body to auto repair, diesel mechanics, and even some high-tech skills. So anyway, check out that site. Check out that information. We went to Sacramento to fight against cutting direct funding. Unfortunately, they didn't want to listen to us, and there were a number of centers across California that closed because of that. It was tragic. It was sad. It was insane, and even to this day, local school districts around the Bay Area are going after those dollars that feed into career technical education. I think that's a travesty, personally. And I think here in Texas, we need to do a better job to assure that our career technical education system has a broad base. Now, having said all this about that, I've got some images up here that I think you ought to see. This is sunset in my backyard. Yes. Oh, there's a little GIF there of of the sunset. Let's see. All right, so California wildfires. They're all over the news. Those hills are covered with manzanita and mesquite. You know mesquite. You barbecue your beef in that. You also know how it smokes, how it burns. And when you get it going, it burns hot. It's very aromatic in many ways. That stuff grows all over these hills. Now, why? We have a lot of this plant all over California, and it's petroleum based. I used to have it on my property as well. We would cut it down, pile it up, and burn it. It would burn so hot we had to be very careful that it didn't get out of control. Now these hills are just covered with this stuff. Now why? They have a large homeless population in California. Why these people aren't up there clearing that brush? Why they aren't working on these fire cuts and back roads? I don't know. As a kid growing up in California, I had my dad had a cousin who worked for the forestry service in California, and we would go up and visit them up in Sonora, and he would take us to the fire towers, and we'd go up in the fire towers and we would look around, and in those days they would do a lot to identify where fires were and get them put out right away. And that does not include campfires and things like that. They would know where the campgrounds were, and they would map all that stuff out. So anyway, it is very difficult to imagine that they don't still do that, but they don't clear the brush. I mean, you look at these videos of what's going on in California, and they don't clear the brush. And I'm just going to run through some of these memes that have come out in the last day. This is just the last day, and I've probably got like 35 of them here. So just take a look at those while I'm talking. They don't clear that stuff. Why don't they clear that stuff? So around here, I don't have one tree. Well, I do have one tree that's close to the house, but we keep that tree pretty well watered, and that's it. We don't want fire here. That's why we mow. Of course, we're hay farmers, so at least if we don't have cows on the property, we cut the hay, we bale it, and we get it off the property. So it's not a fire hazard. We don't let it grow up around our fence lines. That's kind of interesting there that they would do that. So clearing brush and mowing are important. Cutting fire breaks in California, that needs to be done. And building access roads. You see these pictures of these firefighters coming down the hills in California during the fires, and they're on like goat trails up there. Why is that? You can't get up there in a vehicle. The roads would serve as fire breaks, so why aren't they building access roads up there? Well, we don't want to destroy the hills. That's what we used to hear in Milpitas all the time. We don't want to destroy the beautiful hills up there. The hills will destroy your home. So, and listen, remember the WPA projects? Franklin Roosevelt started the WPA programs to lift us out of the Depression. Those weren't handouts. those people were paid. They had jobs. They could support themselves. They could go to the store. They could do things. So, yeah, the WPA program, that would really help. So, a few years ago, Paradise, California burnt to the ground. That was something. And one thing that happened in Paradise, what they identified, was that all these people had security fences around their property. Well, they never cleared the brush real close to those security fences. So when embers fell, they wouldn't necessarily ignite the house right away, but they'd start these security fences on fire. And if you look around Pacific Palisades, all these places had fencing. Well, you put a pile of wood up there, you call it a security fence, it's a fire hazard. And if you don't clear the brush around that, and remove the fuel for a fire, this is what you end up with. Those fences catch on fire, they lead to the house catches on fire. It's pretty simple. It's not rocket science at this point. I mean, it's just simple stuff. So, looking at some of these memes, I don't necessarily believe with all of this, but it's turning into that. It's kind of sad. I understand the fire chief was fired. I don't know. Since then, I've seen the fire chief back on with the mayor, and they're going to solve their problems in private. No, they aren't. The voters are going to vote them both out. They're going to go away. And why don't they have a city manager in Pacific Palisades? Somebody who's responsible for doing these things, preparing a budget, and giving it to the politicians who are the mayor and the city council. Excuse me, I see that as a big problem. So, anyway. Yeah, I kind of appreciated that one. Yeah, and as you watch the news unfold, they're blaming Trump for being mean to Gavin Newsom. I've been mean to Gavin Newsom for decades. Okay, so Trump wasn't first. There's other politicians in California who can handle that. Trump doesn't have to do it. So, yeah, here's a good one. There's water. That's the ocean. Here's fire. Water puts out fire. Yeah, simple. So it's not too confusing what happens. These houses are very expensive. I know, because I sold my house for a lot of money in California, and it made it possible for us to come to Texas and buy 21 acres and still have a few bucks left over. So, not that we're rich. We aren't rich. I mean, we have invested in ranch land that we want to keep as ranch land in Texas. That's why the person who has cows on my property does not pay me for that privilege. He helps us out with our property taxes. We are in agriculture because of his cows, and that's a good thing. So, we're passing it on. But I see too many plots of land here in Texas being subdivided and houses built on them. Houses built on them in unincorporated parts of Texas that are under county control, where there is no county oversight as to how these homes are being built. This leads to this problem. That leads to this. So you have all these houses springing up that are built with no controls over them, and maybe not even looking at the infrastructure in order to support them. So, Texas, be aware that you don't need to follow California. You need to pay attention to what's going on here. The more I hear about mental health issues in Texas, fewer controls in unincorporated parts of Texas, and the lack of building regulations. It just sets the stage for the same thing that we're experiencing in California. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Our ability to fight fires here with volunteer fire departments, with aging equipment, they do a good job. We support what they do. And we get out there and we do the best we can to make sure that we don't start a tragic fire. But unless you want your neighborhoods to look like this, you need to make sure it doesn't happen here. So, that's my message for Texas today. We have growing communities, rising property values, roads and bridges. I hope all our new commissioners realize that the flat roads we have out there are not working. They collect water, cause hydroplaning, cause accidents. We end up in these big ditches that are alongside every road out here. We need to improve on what we do here. We don't need to just keep doing it over and over again. That's crazy. So I encourage politicians to seek new ways of doing things. Yeah, it looks like our map will be changing. Anyway, so I'll get off my soapbox here, and we'll run through the rest of these memes. And I don't know, this is pretty bad. Even Hollywood stars bash failed Democratic leaders as state smolders. And the Democratic leaders, they have control of the House and the Senate and all that. In California, the legislature, they redraw the lines for voting to satisfy the Democrats, and they're very good with demographics. I say the word demographics here in Texas, and nobody knows what I'm talking about. What are the demographics? Okay, how many Democrats do you have voting? Where are they? How are they voting? How about Republicans? How do they vote? Where do we need to go with this stuff? We had a demographer in Milpitas. Before we put a bond issue on the ballot, we would go to the demographer to see if it stood any kind of a chance of passing. We had declining enrollment in the 13 schools that I oversaw. The superintendent wanted to build this big thing, and it's just pending that they're going to bankrupt their school district in Milpitas, California, because they fill all those classrooms that they built recently with teachers. They can't afford to support them. They don't have the ADA, the average daily attendance, to support all those classrooms. That's a problem. And it was one that I identified many years ago and passed along to them. So anyway, here we go with the rest of these memes. I said I was going to get off my soapbox. Sooner or later I will. Can anyone explain why our military is over here when the invasion is here? Yeah, nobody can. So... yeah, riot fires, yeah, we can't put those out. But wildfires, oh my gosh, yeah, that's a problem. And then, Trump got sentenced. No prison, no probation, no conditions. However, he's a convicted felon. How does that work? All my years in corporate America, when we wanted to get rid of someone, even in the school district, when we wanted to get rid of someone where we really didn't have much of a cause other than they were a pain in the ass, we would pay our lawyer, we would get rid of them, and they would come to an agreement on how we would separate them from our group. They would go sign off on those non-disclosure agreements, and they would receive a check from our lawyer. That's exactly what Trump did. So if they're going to convict him of that in New York, they need to convict all of the CEOs across New York for doing the same thing, because they all have done it. They all have done it. And I would say across the nation, everyone has done it. So, and that's how it's done. You have someone who's a problem, you have to get them out of the mix, or they will infect everything in your business. So, anyway, moving right along. The people who got jabbed stayed home and wore masks and now are shaving their heads. And we're the ones in the cult? I don't think so. California Governor Gavin Newsom has invited President-elect Donald Trump to the world's largest barbecue. That's hilarious. He wants to go to a barbecue. He knows it's in Texas. The irony of the NFL moving the Rams-Viking game to State Farm Stadium in Arizona due to Los Angeles fires, just months after State Farm canceled 75,000 insurance policies for LA residents due to fire risk, is insane. What is that about? That's kind of crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. This is, I don't have words to describe. Nero fiddling over the burning of Rome. Newsom fiddling over the burning of Hollywood. Gavin Newsom demands answers from whoever's in charge of California. Yes. Crazy. Whatever your opinion of Trump, this is hard to disagree with. Here's a guy with the energy and personality of a cadaver, a two-time loser before having dementia, who ran the laziest campaign in history and somehow got 11 million more votes than Obama in 2008. By the way, 11 million more votes than actually exist. Nobody with an ounce of common sense thinks he's legit. And that's the truth. So, let's see. Tragedy strikes twice for BLM founder Patrisse Cullors, as 2 of her 3 Los Angeles mansions are consumed by wildfires. Why does she have mansions? Think about that. All right. I believe that's it. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. You have a great day. Be sure on Tuesday to go to the Hopkins County Republican Women's Meeting down at the Republican Center. And we will see you when we see you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.